Hi y'all, I'm here for a review on Modern Warfare 2's X13 Auto. A bit of a branch over from what I usually do, but the game's finally working for me again, and I really want to put a review out on this gun because I'm really enjoying it. I've got my gold mastery on it, and kind of want to share what I think works with this gun in a very live, average, like kind of in the hands of an average player. I don't consider myself particularly good, I don't consider myself particularly bad, so I'm going to talk about the gun, the builds I run for it, because I do run two different builds for it, depending on what I want it to do. And then I'm going to throw in some live gameplay by just jumping in a multiplayer match or two and kind of showing you how it works in a live environment. No editing whatsoever. So, first things first, the X13 Auto, the Glock 18, which is what I will be referring to it as for the rest of this video, I'm sorry. It's an automatic pistol. It's pretty alright by default. I mean, it's the only auto pistol in the game as it currently stands, and for this, it's pretty unique. It's very comfortable to use. It doesn't have pretty bad recoil. It's just comfy to use. The only things it really struggles with out of the box is range, and it's kind of rough to use when aiming down sights because the default Glock irons are just bad. And your magazine size really limits you when you're just starting it. So then, as you work your way up through the mastery, I think there's two very different ways you can build this gun. You can either build it for a pure aim down sights build, or you can build it for a hipfire build. And these are the two builds I run and I will be covering here. So, if you're going for an aim down sights build, I find this build works a little bit better as a pocket submachine gun kind of weapon. You're not probably going to primary it, but like if you're out of ammo in your primary, or you just have some closer range combat going on, I think it works excellently as a bit of a pocket weapon. Because you're not limited to being, like, a semi-auto pistol, kind of rough to use. You just whip it out, you use it like a normal submachine gun, and then you can get back to your primary whenever you need to. So, for this build specifically, you have to run the impact point barrel. What the impact point barrel lets you do is it basically turns it into a carbine, if you will. You get it looks a little funny in the gunsmith without it, but basically it lets you have stocks and it lets you have underbarrels. So if you're going to be running it as an aim down sights kind of pocket submachine gun, it's just mandatory. You do lose a little bit of ADS and move speed with this, but honestly, it's worth it for the benefits you get. After that, you can run the stock you like, but I personally prefer the heaviest just for the recoil control since you're going to be using it aimed down sights. It just really helps keep the thing pointed right on point. Barrel is up to you, although I personally run the suppressor, but you can drop the suppressor for a bigger magazine if you prefer, or you can drop it for a different grip if you want that aimed down sight speed. Like, the barrel is kind of the least important part of the build. I like the suppressor because it just hides you, and it gives you a little bit more recoil. It just makes the gun a little bit more comfy, if you will, but you can certainly swap it out. Your underbarrel is also a matter of personal preference, which grip you personally like. I like the Lock Grip Precision 40 for the vertical recoil, but again, it's really up to you, just based on whatever you want to use. Main point of the grip, of course, is to just keep you 1 point. As for weapon tuning, I'd recommend going for anything that gives you either recoil control or aim down sight speed. The reason for this being, unfortunately, you're going to have to fight these a lot. But, like, for example, on the barrel, you can go for both recoil and ADS speed, which is super useful. On your suppressor, you go for velocity. I wouldn't pick aiming idle stability in any of your tunings, because you're not going to be standing still and shooting in this game a whole lot. So you're kind of just shooting yourself in the foot. Bullet velocity isn't a super useful perk, but it's still something over idle stability, especially if you have to blink somebody at range. And then the whole point of the ADS build, really, like I said, is just to be a pocket submachine gun. You can kind of whip it out, you can kind of use it when you need to, and then you can just go back to your primary. It's very comfy to use with a lot of bigger weapons, stuff like a sniper rifle, a marksman rifle, a battle rifle, etc. As to why I wouldn't use a magazine, obviously you can if you feel like you need the extra rounds, but I personally don't because I find it hits your aim down sight speed too hard. And it hits your reload speed pretty bad too. It's just really rough, especially if you're going for bigger. If I were going with the magazine option, I would personally only really go for the 24, but the 33 works too. I personally think the drum is a mistake on this, because you just lose way too much aim down sight speed. As for the other build, unfortunately I have to go to a different loadout, because Modern Warfare 2 doesn't let you save weapon blueprints. Cool. The hipfire build is purely built as a fun build, in my opinion. Obviously, you run akimbo because you're just hip firing, who cares? You take your best, like, laser, for hip firing, which is the 1 milliwatt pistol laser. Sure, the laser's visible, but you get better hip fire accuracy that way, so. Considering you're going to be loud as hell anyway, just stomping around all over the place with an akimbo Glock, just run the laser. You can drop the barrel for ammo if you really want to, but I'd personally go with the Luke 9 barrel. You get a little bit more move speed that way. It's not huge, but it's just, you know, makes you move around a little bit faster. Barrel's up to you. Honestly, they don't really have a huge effect on the gun. I opted to go with a suppressor just to have a little bit more concealment with that suppression, but not a huge deal. Obviously, since you're running akimbo, just go for the 50 drum. Like, you're not going to be aiming down sights in the first place, so the only thing that really hurts you here is the move speed. But you can kind of work around it just by holding the fire button and just birding at people, you know. You could run ammo, but honestly, I don't believe any of the ammo types here are strong enough to be worth running on either build. For the akimbo Glock 18s, I'd highly recommend just using them for fun. I don't think they're particularly competitive, but it's a hell of a lot of fun to use, especially if you're just going to be manning it around. In my humble opinion, if you're going for your camo, outside of your, like, really honestly, for outside of your gold, like, get 3 kills without dying, do them all on akimbo. It's just, akimbo's just fun to use. Like, you don't have to worry about playing super well or tryharding at all. You just kind of shoot people. Even honestly, for the gold challenge, you can do it. Like, except maybe for, say, like, the platinum long shots or the polyatomic headshots. You can honestly just safely run the akimbo build the whole time. It's just lots of fun. Like, that's all you can really say about it. It's just it's just a really fun weapon to use. And that's honestly the benefit of the Glock 18 on both styles of build. Or even out of the box. It's just a fun pistol to use. So, that all being said, there's your discussion, if you will. My general overview of, like, the builds I like to run, etc. So now we're just going to jump into a multiplayer match. And I'm going to give you some live, average player footage of this thing, because personally, I don't really enjoy watching super edited reviews, because they tend to cherry pick out the best moments, and they're usually from really good players. Nothing against that whatsoever. Great at showing you what the weapon can do. But I like to just demonstrate, you know, in the hands of an average, mediocre player in the average live match, especially with skill-based matchmaking, what a weapon is going to do for you. And look, Santa Cena Border Crossing, like, this is probably going to be kind of rough. So we're going to, because it's Santa Cena, we're going to start with the
Let's do it after the game, I can't even do it right now.
No, why did I not mute everything before I started the match? Oh, it's the final kill anyway. Gee, thanks,
Just do it right now, quick.
Oh, it's S&D. Oh. I guess we're gonna mute off. Alright, I wasn't planning on getting S&D for this, but like I said, you're getting live play. For Search and Destroy specifically, I would highly recommend going with the inbound side build. The Glock 18 hipfire is super fun to use, but you get killed a lot. Like, because of just how much you have to kind of run around, and you have to basically be hyper-maneuverable, and you're really loud, it's really easy to get drilled with it. However, with the aim-down sight build, you're kind of ready. You can hold angles a lot more effectively, too. Hey, we got the round one. So it's more reliable, I would say. Like, the aim-down sight build is more reliable for killing players. The akimbo build is significantly more fun for killing players. If that makes sense. This is completely impromptu. Like, as you can tell, I haven't scripted this in the slightest. This is completely live. You're just hearing my genuine thoughts as they come to me. That's pretty much the blunt of how the Glock 18 works. It's a fun weapon to use. Of course, there are some situations where it will let you down. There are other situations where it will surprise you with how reliable it is, and how comfortable to use it is. It really varies from match to match. Sometimes you just get a good match, and you kind of pop off with it. Other times you get shot in the head by a sniper rifle. It can really go either way. So, a little bit of the aim-down sights build out of the way, super comfortable to use, super reliable. We're going to switch to the hipfire build for the next round. And I'm going to show you why it's fun, and why it's also kind of painful. Grab a drink of my water. I love water. Water's good for you. You should drink more water. In fact, if you're watching this right now, you should go have a drink of water. It's good for you.
1 minute left.
Alright, cool, another round win. Santa Scene is not a very good map for the hipfire build because the sightlines are just too long. But on smaller apps, like with Shipment coming up, even on Shoot House, on, say, stuff like Greenberg Hotel, the hipfire build is great because it really benefits from those shorter range engagements. Meanwhile, you get something like Santa Cena, Tarak, Crown Raceway at times. Those longer sightlines are just going to make the hipfire build super unreliable. On the UAV right away, just so we have some vision. That's a decoy grenade. Always fools me in Search and Destroy. Like, it's fun to use the akimbo Glocks, but they're not very reliable, and especially in a mode like Search and Destroy, you are really, really vulnerable. Obviously, the hipfire build works a lot better in standard game modes. Great in hardpoint, great in domination. Anywhere where fights are kind of forced in an area, they're great because you can reliably predict where people are, so you can kind of mitigate the unreliableness of the hipfire just a little bit. So, we're going to play out this game of Search and Destroy, kind of switching between the two sets a little bit. Just so you can kind of get an idea of how this gun works, depending on what you build it for. A couple more words on the out-of-the-box Glock 18. I would personally initially build it for aim-down sights. With only one Glock 18 at your disposal, the hipfire build just becomes even more unreliable. Your DPS is just not really there. But as soon as you get akimbo, you're safe to make the jump. It's just before you get it, it's just a little too unreliable with only one of them. So for grinding, I would definitely grind it on the aim-down sight setup, as you slowly grind your way through all your weapon masteries and unlocks. But once you get akimbo, you're absolutely safe. Let's go to hipfire. Hipfire is also usually the more effective of the two builds when it comes to raw kill numbers. Assuming, like, you know, you're in something like Kill Confirmed or a standard game mode, not Search and Destroy. But the ADS build is just more reliable overall. But, you know, there are times where, you know, you'll feel the fact that it is an auto pistol. You will get let down by its range, or its handling capability. Or it's kind of it kills fast,
1 minute left.
but you can still get styled on by some machine guns, assault rifles. Like, if somebody gets the drop on you, regardless of what build you're running, you're usually just going to be dead. You're a huge victim to marksman rifles, you're a huge victim to sniper rifles. Like, it's a good pistol, and I genuinely believe it's probably the best of the 5 pistols currently in the game as of recording in Season 1. That said, like all the pistols, as good as they are, overkill is just, like, it's overkill. Outside of having fun with the akimbo autos, you're probably better off just picking akimbo and running, like, another submachine gun in the secondary slot. Or running just, like, it's fun to use, but it's honestly not the most effective way to build a loadout. That said, if you're doing your pistol camos and masteries, assuming, because, you know, camo grinding is the name of the game here, it's a wonderful pistol to use. And honestly, if more pistols get added, I'd recommend doing the Glock 18s anyway, solely because of how much fun they are. Why is he all the way at the back? Like, they need to plant. Obviously, I can't really engage them on favorable terms because of Santa Cena and I have akimbo Glock 18s. But, like, we can just wait them out. There's a player near me. If he hadn't jumped, though, he probably could have lasered me. I wouldn't have been able to do much about it, solely because I wouldn't have had the accuracy to do much about it. I'm not sure what he was going for, but he certainly could have killed me there if he wanted to. Match point. Let's go back to the aim-down sights build for a round. Maybe more, depending on, you know, if we actually manage to win or not. This is not the right loadout. Call of Duty, please, I beg. Give me what I asked for. So I guess really the whole point of this video is the Glock 18s are fun. I highly recommend using them if you haven't. Go aim-down sights build, then swap over to hipfire build as soon as you can. I blundered massively.
Cruise missile deployed.
Of course, positioning, much like any gun, really helps you a whole lot because if you don't position well, you'll just get blown up by a frag grenade. But in the right hands, the Glock 18 can be extremely rewarding with how fast it's able to down targets. And just really, it's a ton of fun just holding both your mouse buttons and going monkey mode with your akimbo Glock 18s. No other weapon in the game right now really provides that same feeling of just a bird. So, it's unique in that regard. There's not really a whole lot else to say about it. It's just a comfortable little pistol to use. Unfortunately, overkill is as prevalent as it is, and as good as overkill is, kind of makes pistols in general not really worth running unless you're doing camos for them. But, nonetheless, it's still a fun and unique experience that I believe is worth your time.
Solid work.
It's just, it can be a little rough to grind up through the weapon unlocks, just to be able to get all your attachments that you need. And, a word of advice. You need to get Akimbo unlocked on the Glock 17, the X12, for it to be unlocked on the X13. I found this out the hard way. I maxed out my X13, my Glock 18, and didn't realize that in order to unlock Akimbo for it, you need to get Akimbo on the X12. A word of advice there. So if you really want to like commit to the hipfire build, unfortunately, you gotta max out the X12 as well. That's just the way things are. That's the way the weapon platform system demands you do things. But the X12 is nice too, and honestly gives you a pretty good, like, vision for what the X13 is going to be like. Just less fun stuff. So that's all I really have to say. The Glock 18, great little pistol. Highly recommend using it. It's just a little rough until you finally get the right attachments for it. But when you do, it is seriously one of the most fun weapons in the entire game, and I genuinely can't recommend it enough. Thank you all. I will see you all next time.